Hey guys, I'm Steven, and welcome to Vegan Steven. Today what I'm going to be doing is a little bit different than my first video. It's going to be a recipe, but I'm not going to be reading off of a script, so most of the stuff that I'm going to be saying is going to be coming out naturally. I don't know if you guys ever cooked before, but just cooking alone, you have to pay a lot of attention to it. So cooking and filming was a little bit difficult, so bear with me on this one. It's my first try, but this recipe is going to be a great recipe, especially for you new vegans. It's got a really meaty consistency to it. It looks like a pulled pork sandwich. I mean, I call it a pulled pork sandwich all the time. It's great for when you have friends over who eat meat and you want to cook them a vegan meal and show them that vegan food isn't tasteless and gross. It's really cool. It's also like a manly meal. So yeah, this is one of those meals that just breaks the stereotype of vegan food being gross and, you know, not flavorful. So we're going to jump into the kitchen and I'm going to show you guys what the recipe's about. But before we do that, let me actually tell you what it is. So the recipe is a pulled pork sandwich. The pulled pork is going to be made with mushrooms and a little bit of onions. We're going to mix it up with a barbecue sauce. And now we're going to throw a coleslaw on top of it, but we're going to add a little spin to it. I like to get my kale in. Kale is a great vegetable, superfood, high in protein and high in a lot of nutrients. And it's got kind of a bitter taste to it. So I like to pair it with something that's kind of sweet and something that can use a little bit of a crunch. So the pulled pork sandwich is going to be topped off with a kale slaw salad that I'm going to be making. The kale slaw can be as simple or as difficult as you like. If you make your own dressing, it can be a little bit more difficult. If you choose to just purchase a dressing and pour it on top, then it's way easy because it's just 2 ingredients. So we're going to jump into the kitchen and get started. Hey guys, we're here in the kitchen and we're going to go over some of the ingredients you're going to need for both portions of this recipe. We're going to start with the coleslaw. It's not really coleslaw. I use kale. I like to get my kale in. I like to cheat it in because I don't really like the taste of this too much. So if I cheat it into a meal that tastes really good, I find that's a good way to get my greens in. So for the kale slaw, what you're going to need is basically some loose leaf kale. And if you don't want to make your own dressing, you can just buy Annie's goddess dressing and throw a little bit of maple syrup in that. It gives it a nice like coleslaw type salad dressing feel and taste. I like to make my own dressing, so for that we're going to need apple cider vinegar, some soy sauce or tahini, some Grey Poupon, and a little bit of maple syrup. Now let's move on to the pulled pork part. For the pork, we're going to be using oyster whole mushrooms. I use the oyster mushrooms because they have these fibers that run from the cap all the way down to the stem, and they're really easy to peel, and you get like a pulled pork consistency out of them. You can try to do this with portobello mushrooms or shiitake mushrooms, and I'm sure it'll taste good, but it won't have that pulled pork look. You'll see what I'm talking about once we actually cook these guys. And then together with them, I like to cut up some onions really finely, throw them in there, let them caramelize a little bit. It gives it a good flavor. And then you're going to drizzle it with any vegan-friendly barbecue sauce. Just a disclaimer, some barbecue sauces, like especially sweet ones, consist of honey. If you're going vegan, honey is an animal product. It's actually bee vomit, so you want to stay away from honey. I just choose ones that use molasses instead. And this is actually pretty good. It's a pretty good brand. So yeah, let's get to cooking. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to chop up these onions. I like to take out the core. Over here, this is the onion I had used earlier, so it's already cut in half. And basically what I like to do is just cut it finely. I'll probably use half of this guy, so I'm just cooking for myself. So I cut it into nice fine little strips. They'll break up once they hit the skillet, so I'll save that for later. And yeah, we're going to throw these on the skillet. Alright guys, so here you can see what I'm talking about. These are the little fibers that run through the oyster mushroom. And when I grab it, you'll see that they split right down the middle. So when you take a fork to them and you start just peeling from left to right, it breaks up into a bunch of little tiny shreds. Filming on my phone, but what I did is I put the stove on medium high, and I'm going to hit the skillet with a couple of sprays of some non-stick olive oil spray. I use Pam's Purely Olive Oil, and we're going to grab these mushrooms and we're just going to toss them in. And they're going to start to sizzle. You want the skillet to get nice and hot before you throw these on there. And once they sizzle, you're just going to mix them up a little bit and let them sit. We want these to get kind of crusty on the outside, like a nice little burn mark on them, and then we're going to flip them over to the other side and let them grill for another 2 to 3 minutes. Alright, so the mushrooms have been sitting here for a little bit. I'm going to give them a quick shake. You see those little burn marks on there? Those will really bring out the flavor of the mushroom. So we're just going to let them sit a little bit longer, and I'm going to go work on the coleslaw dressing. Alright guys, so the coleslaw dressing is going to be pretty easy. It's just going to be a tablespoon of Grey Poupon, tablespoon of soy sauce, one tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, and 1 tablespoon of grade A maple syrup, and maybe a little bit more. I like it kind of sweet. You're going to mix this all up. Until it gets to your desired consistency. Alright guys, the mushrooms are done, so I'm going to transfer them on over to the cutting board. Here they are. So I'm going to show you basically what I do to peel them. You can just grab one mushroom. So I'll bring it back over here so you guys can see. What I do is I put 1 fork on the stem and I pull out, going with the little fibers that it has. And I'll show you guys what this looks like when I'm done. Alright guys, so the mushrooms are all done. I just took the onions I chopped up, threw them back in the mushroom bin, and I'm going to put them on the skillet here to cook for a little bit. Same thing as the mushrooms, you're just going to let them sit, give them a little shake, and let them caramelize a little bit. Alright guys, so the mushrooms are all done. They're all peeled and pulled back, and I mean, it kind of already looks like pulled pork. So I'm going to let the onions finish grilling up a little bit before I toss these in there and mix them with the barbecue sauce too. Alright guys, I got the onions and the mushrooms in there, and I'm going to drizzle some of this barbecue sauce on top. Give it a little shake. And let it cook for a little bit before I mix it all up. Alright guys, I got my kale and my red onion here. What I'm going to do is chop them up and throw them into the bowl. I already rinsed the kale, so what I'm going to do is just chop it. I just bunch it up and throw it into little chops. Once I get that, I'll just throw this into this bowl here. And I'll get started on the red onion. Alright guys, so the red onion is chopped. What I'm going to do is throw it into the bowl together with the kale. And then I'm going to throw the dressing on top of it. And mix it all up. Now I'm going to let this sit for a good maybe 2 or 3 minutes so all the flavors get absorbed into the kale while I work on preparing the sandwich. Nice toasted whole wheat hamburger bun. And what I'm going to do is take some of the pulled pork, throw it on there. Grab a little of the coleslaw, throw it right on top. And put the bun on top. And there you have it. A pulled pork sandwich, vegan style. Guys, so I just finished making and consuming the pulled pork sandwich, and I gotta tell you, it was absolutely delicious. The mushrooms came out really good. The barbecue had a nice little spice to it. The onions gave it a good consistency as well with the pulled pork, and then that kale slaw salad that I made. I mean, when you make your own dressing, it just takes it one step up because you can basically choose how sweet, how sour, and how bitter you want things to be. It was really a nice meal, crunchy, kind of filling. I'm full right now and I just had one of them. But I mean, if you're trying to bulk or get bigger or whatever, you can definitely eat 2. Or side it with something else like sweet potato. I like to make sweet potato fries with it. But yeah, as you can see, I ate the entire thing. It was really good, and I hope you guys give this a try and let me know how it goes. So on behalf of me and the millions of unheard animal voices, peace.